Hello there and welcome. I have finally gathered some moments to be able to answer some listener questions. Um, I'm so happy to see you all. I hope you are enjoying season 2 with all of the wonderful interviews that we've been having. I hope by this time that you've had a good holiday season, and that whatever goals that you have set for the new year may be achievable, measurable. They're called SMART goals. Yes. Let's go with this listener question. It says, my comment, let me start from the beginning. Hello, I apologize for it taking me so long to write you. I made a comment on one of your TikToks and you told me to write you here. Yay, thank you. That means that I can actually have it organized and I can not lose track of your email in question. My comment was about how the IEP person for my child's school told me that she was too smart to have autism. Yeesh. First, thank you for being a huge source of information and for simply being amazing. That's so kind. The internet has not been kind to me this past weekend, so I appreciate that. I've been fighting with the school for 2 years now. She does have a 504 plan, but those accommodations are not helping. I'm in contact with a place called PACER, PACER. They help parents advocate for their children and they are in school and have any kind of disability. That is fantastic. I've been trying for over a year to have my child tested for autism, and places are so full and have not been able to get the actual diagnosis. My 20-year-old is on the autism spectrum, and my ex-sister-in-law's 4 children are also diagnosed and in the same school district. My child was also just diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. They also have some physical things going on. I'm trying to be that fierce mom that takes no BS from the school, but they are horribly mean and they twist everything. By the time I am done talking to anyone there, I feel so confused and plowed over. I don't know which way is up. I can so relate. I just want my kiddo to have an education. Homeschool is not really an option. I really don't know what to do at this point. Thank you for your time and all the help you give. You are truly appreciated. Thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. So let's unpack a bit. If you're like me, you have to answer things in like a consecutive way or you get a little bit lost. So it sounds like you have requested of the school to receive an autism diagnosis or to seek an autism diagnosis, be evaluated, I should say, for an autism diagnosis. It says places are so full and have not been able to get the actual diagnosis. Have you made that official request from the school? If so, they have a certain amount, the certain amount of days varies by state, but they have a certain amount of days to provide that evaluation for you. If they don't have the appropriate personnel, which is probably what they will tell you, then they are still legally obligated to outsource that evaluation. So they have to hire somebody on your behalf from, the local psychiatry area of your local hospital to do that evaluation for you. And it has to be done within a certain amount of days. For example, it could be within 30 days, within 60 days of request. Here's the struggle. And I made a video about this not long ago. You have to be very clear and specific about the verbiage that you are using when you request that evaluation. And you have to make sure that everybody is on the same page within the IEP team so that there is a due date for that evaluation. In other words, if via email, you just keep saying, I'd really like for her to have an autism evaluation. I think it's really important that she gets an autism evaluation. You could interpret that as I requested it several times. And for most people, yes, that's absolutely what you're doing. Legally, they could get away with not fulfilling that request. So you have to use very specific verbiage. I am officially requesting an evaluation for autism for my daughter. I want it to be noted that the request was made on, December 1st, 2022. That's the day I'm recording this, by the way. December 1st, 2022. I understand that per state law, the school has, whatever the number is, 60 days to fulfill that evaluation. Make sure you CC the appropriate people. If you have struggled as far as the teacher, the administration, either having the resources or just not knowing what appropriate protocol is and timelines are. You may want to CC above that. I would include the district special education supervisor. That might not be their title. Their titles vary by district and state. So it could be district special education coordinator, advisor, supervisor, whatever it is. But there is someone that is responsible for special education for the district. I would include that person. If you've already been in contact with that person, I would include the superintendent. You could also say, I know that I have, in one form or another, been requesting this evaluation for some time. Unfortunately, that hasn't come to pass. It's been about a year. It looks like my first email requesting that was on this date. In other words, you are holding them responsible and showing the deficit that has occurred. In other words, that may be a hint to the superintendent, for example, that there are not enough psychiatrists in the available to take care of all of the evaluations, that someone's need is not being met, that someone's civil rights are being violated. It sounds like you have an official diagnosis for your child for something else that would qualify them for special education, for an IEP or 504. I would encourage you to graduate, I suppose, or elevate that plan from a 504 to an IEP, especially if the accommodations are not helping, as you said. So if here's a struggle, or I suppose a task of action, you will need to prove that the 504 plan and the current accommodations are not helping. So how do you prove that? I feel like I'm saying the same answer 1,000 times, which is okay. I'm happy to say it over and over again. You do that with evidence and documentation. So you are taking those daily communication journals the teacher is sending home that specify the lack of success. So Jimmy was hitting today, Sandy was scratching today, Sandy was distracted today, Sandy got no work done today. Anything that shows that the environment, the accommodations, whatever is in place is apparently not being successful or not enough. Also, any data evidence that shows that progress is not being made on an academic level, social, emotional level, any of that can be used and should be used as evidence that things are not enough. Again, it needs to be like a whole folder, a whole file of documentation of this is why it's not effective. Now, the reason why this will be what works when you have tried I think this is what's needed. I hope to have that evaluation done soon. The reason why that's not effective is because legally you are not obligating them to do anything with that kind of verbiage. Now, if you have a fantastic school that is supported and staffed appropriately, which is like no school, then sure, they may be like, yes, absolutely, let's go, let's do this. But generally, whether it's emotionally they don't want to support your child, which is rare. I don't know any teacher administration that is trying not to support your child. But it's more that they have other obligations that they are trying to finagle. They don't have any of the one-to-one paraprofessionals available. Nobody is taking jobs from the job market, whatever. So when you show someone who does have that power, like a superintendent or members of the Board of Education, hey, I have enough evidence that if we took this to court, which is our next step, we would win. Dollar-wise, this method of going to court will cost your district more money than it would cost for you to cooperate with me, for you to give my child the civil rights that they need. So it comes down to eventually a dollar amount. It will cost you less money to do this than it would to do this. And if you're listening and not watching, I went from one side to the other. I realized that was probably strange to give a visual if so many people are listening instead of watching. And really, that's for any accommodation, a change of placement, advocating for a functional behavioral assessment, a behavior intervention plan, advocating for any kind of change whatsoever is what is required for that. If you have, if that very kind passive aggressive communication that is typical American style is not being effective. And again, that's not necessarily because teachers and administrators are trying to deny your child's rights. A lot of times it's because they have been told from higher ups, hey, this is how we do it here. We don't have these resources. Tell them no. And so a lot of times their jobs are threatened, literally threatened. So what you have to do is go to the people that are in power on behalf of the teacher, the evidence that you have gathered from the teacher and the administration, and say, look, this will cost you more money to go to court because you will lose based on the evidence I have, rather than assisting us. Yeah. Now that could be blanketed to, like I said, any other accommodation, change, etc., to a plan. That's the method that works, because it's dollars, honestly, which is sad, but reality. It's truth. So I hope that helps you. I hope that people who are looking for changes in accommodations, I hope that helps all of you. And thank you so much for listening. This is a pretty short one. Let me see. Where am I at time-wise? 11 minutes. See, this is what I want. I want things to be succinct, palatable. I can do this. That makes sense, so that you feel empowered to advocate on behalf of your child and the teacher and the administration who is understaffed, under-resourced. That you can say this resource is required, or you're going to lose more money when I take this to court. Make sense? If you come in as a parent who's just like, oh, well, I really wish, I think it makes sense. They know that if you bring that to court, you have no evidence whatsoever. None. You pose no threat to their budget. You got to threaten their budget, I suppose. So I will see you next time. And don't forget that I am rooting for you.